The Shawshank Redemption is a 1994 American prison drama film written and directed by Frank Darabont, based on the 1982 Stephen King novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. The film tells the story of banker Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins, who is sentenced to life in Shawshank State Penitentiary for the murders of his wife and her lover, despite his claims of innocence. Over the following 2 decades, he befriends a fellow prisoner, contraband smuggler Ellis "Red" Redding, Morgan Freeman, and becomes instrumental in a money laundering operation led by the prison warden Samuel Norton, Bob Gunton. William Sadler, Clancy Brown, Gil Bellows, and James Whitmore appear in supporting roles. Darabont purchased the film rights to King's story in 1987, but development did not begin until 5 years later, when he wrote the script over 8 weeks. 2 weeks after submitting his script to Castle Rock Entertainment, Darabont secured a $25 million budget to produce The Shawshank Redemption, which started pre-production in January 1993. While the film is set in Maine, principal photography took place from June to August 1993 almost entirely in Mansfield, Ohio, with the Ohio State Reformatory serving as the eponymous penitentiary. The project attracted many stars for the role of Andy, including Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and Kevin Costner. Thomas Newman provided the film's score. While The Shawshank Redemption received critical acclaim upon its release, particularly for its story and the performances of Robbins and Freeman, it was a box office disappointment, earning only $16 million during its initial theatrical run. Many factors were attributed to its failure at the time, including competition from the films Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump, the general unpopularity of prison films, its lack of female characters, and even the title, which was considered confusing for audiences. It went on to receive multiple award nominations, including 7 Academy Award nominations, and a theatrical re-release that, combined with international takings, increased the film's box office gross to $73.3 million. Over 320,000 VHS rental copies were shipped throughout the United States, and on the strength of its award nominations and word of mouth, it became the top video rental of 1995. The broadcast rights were acquired following the purchase of Castle Rock Entertainment by Turner Broadcasting System, and it was shown regularly on the TNT network starting in 1997, further increasing its popularity. Decades after release, the film is still broadcast regularly, and is popular in several countries, with audience members and celebrities citing it as a source of inspiration or naming it a favorite in various surveys, leading to its recognition as one of the best-loved films by audiences. In 2015, the United States Library of Congress selected the film for preservation in the National Film Registry, finding it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Plot: in 1947, Portland, Maine, banker Andy Dufresne arrives at Shawshank State Prison to serve 2 consecutive life sentences for murdering his wife and her lover. He is befriended by Ellis "Boyd" Red Redding, a contraband smuggler serving a life sentence, who procures for him a rock hammer and a large poster of Rita Hayworth. Assigned to work in the prison laundry, Andy is frequently raped by the Sisters gang, led by Boggs Diamond. In 1949, Andy overhears the captain of the guards, Byron Hadley, complaining about being taxed on an inheritance and offers to help him shelter the money legally. After the sisters beat Andy to near death, Hadley cripples Boggs, who is subsequently transferred to a minimum security hospital. Andy is not attacked again. Warden Samuel Norton assigns Andy to the prison's decrepit library, ostensibly to assist elderly inmate Brooks Hadlin, but in reality, to utilize Andy's financial expertise in managing the warden's and other prison staff's finances. Andy also starts writing weekly letters to the state legislature, requesting funding to improve the library. Brooks is paroled in 1954 after serving 50 years, but cannot adjust to the outside world and eventually hangs himself. After years of Andy's ceaseless letters, the legislature sends a library donation that includes a recording of the marriage of Figaro. Andy plays an excerpt over the public address system, experiencing a moment of personal freedom before he is punished with solitary confinement. After his release, Andy explains to a dismissive Red that hope is what gets him through his sentence. In 1963, Norton begins exploiting prison labor for public works, profiting by undercutting skilled labor costs and receiving bribes. Andy launders the money using the alias Randall Stevens. In 1965, Andy and Red befriend Tommy Williams, a young inmate convicted of burglary. Andy helps Tommy pass his general educational development exam, and Tommy later reveals that his cellmate at another prison confessed to committing the murders for which Andy was convicted. When Andy informs Norton, the warden refuses to act. Although Andy promises to keep the money laundering a secret, Norton has Hadley kill Tommy under the guise of an escape attempt and sends Andy to solitary confinement. Norton then threatens to destroy the library, strip Andy of guard protection, and transfer him to harsher conditions if he refuses to continue with his scheme. A disheveled Andy is released from solitary confinement after 2 months. He tells a skeptical Red that he dreams of living in Zihuatanejo, a town on the Mexican Pacific coast, where he can start anew. He asks Red to promise, once he is released, to travel to a specific hayfield near Buxton and recover a package that Andy buried there. Red worries that Andy is suicidal, especially after learning that he asked a fellow inmate for a rope. At the next day's roll call, the guards find Andy's cell empty. An irate Norton throws a rock at a poster of Raquel Welch hanging on the cell wall, revealing a tunnel that Andy had dug with his rock hammer over 19 years. The previous night, Andy escaped through the tunnel and prison sewage pipe, taking with him Norton's suit, shoes, and the ledger containing evidence of the money laundering and corruption at Shawshank. While guards search for him, Andy poses as Randall Stevens and withdraws over $370,000 of the laundered money from various banks before mailing the ledger to a local newspaper. State police arrive at Shawshank and take Hadley into custody, while Norton commits suicide to avoid arrest. The following year, Red is paroled after serving 40 years, but struggles to adapt to life outside prison and fears that he never will. Remembering his promise to Andy, he visits Buxton and finds a cache containing money and a letter inviting him to come to Zihuatanejo. Red violates his parole by traveling to Mexico, admitting that he finally feels hope. He finds Andy on a beach, and the reunited friends happily embrace. Cast: a standing Caucasian man with short white and gray hair, wears glasses and a blue coat. He faces left towards the camera smiling. An African American man with a beard and short hair, both a mix of white and gray, and wearing an earring in each ear. He is smiling towards the camera. Tim Robbins in 2008, left, and Morgan Freeman in 1990. Tim Robbins as Andy Dufresne, a banker sentenced to life in prison in 1947 for the murder of his wife and her lover 3. Morgan Freeman as Ellis Boyd Red Redding, a prison contraband smuggler who befriends Andy 4-5. Bob Gunton as Samuel Norton, the pious and cruel warden of Shawshank Penitentiary 3. William Sadler as Haywood, a member of Red's gang of long-serving convicts 4-6. Clancy Brown as Byron Hadley, the brutal captain of the prison guard 7-8. Gil Bellows as Tommy Williams, a young convict imprisoned for burglary in 1965 4-9. James Whitmore as Brooks Hadlin, the elderly prison librarian, imprisoned at Shawshank for over 5 decades 10. The cast also includes Mark Ralston as Boggs Diamond, the head of the Sisters Gang and a prison rapist 11. Jeffrey DeMunn as the prosecuting attorney in Dufresne's trial, Alfonso Freeman as Fresh Fish Khan, Ned Bellamy and Don McManus as, respectively, prison guards Youngblood and Wiley. And Dion Anderson as Head Bull Hig. 4. Renee Blaine portrays Andy's wife, and Scott Mann portrays her golf instructor lover Glenn Quinton. 12. Frank Medrano plays Fat Ass, one of Andy's fellow new inmates who is beaten to death by Hadley 413, and Bill Bollender plays Elmo Blatch, a convict who is implied to be responsible for the crimes for which Andy is convicted. 14. James Giesecke and Claire Slemmer portray the Maine National Bank manager and a teller, respectively. 15-16. Analysis. The film has been interpreted as being grounded in Christian mysticism. 17. Andy is offered as a messianic, Christ-like figure, with Red describing him early in the film as having an aura that engulfs and protects him from Shawshank. 18. The scene in which Andy and several inmates tar the prison roof can be seen as a recreation of the Last Supper, with Andy obtaining beer/wine for the 12 inmates/disciples as Freeman describes them as the lords of all creation invoking Jesus' blessing. 19. Director Frank Darabont responded that this was not his deliberate intention. 20. But he wanted people to find their own meaning in the film. 21. The discovery of the Marriage of Figaro record is described in the screenplay as akin to finding the Holy Grail, bringing the prisoners to a halt, and causing the sick to rise up in their beds. 22. Early in the film, Warden Norton quotes Jesus Christ to describe himself to Andy, saying, "I am the light of the world," declaring himself Andy's savior, but this description can also reference Lucifer, the bearer of light. 23. Indeed, the warden does not enforce the general rule of law, but chooses to enforce his own rules and punishments as he sees fit, becoming a law unto himself, like the behavior of Satan. 3. The warden has also been compared to former United States President Richard Nixon. Norton's appearance and public addresses can be seen to mirror Nixon's. Similarly, Norton projects an image of a holy man, speaking down sanctimoniously to the servile masses while running corrupt scams, like those of which Nixon was accused. 24. An empty crescent-shaped beach, with small patches of grass and a small red boat sits on the shore. The sea appears to the left of the image and mountains appear in the background. Andy and Red's reunion was filmed at the Sandy Point National Wildlife Refuge, St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. The location has been interpreted as a form of escape or paradise. Zihuatanejo has been interpreted as an analog for heaven or paradise. 25. In the film, Andy describes it as a place with no memory, offering absolution from his sins by forgetting about them or allowing them to be washed away by the Pacific Ocean, whose name means peaceful. The possibility of escaping to Zihuatanejo is only raised after Andy admits that he feels responsible for his wife's death. 25. Similarly, Red's freedom is only earned once he accepts he cannot save himself or atone for his sins. Freeman has described Red's story as one of salvation as he is not innocent of his crimes, unlike Andy, who finds redemption. 26. While some Christian viewers interpret Zihuatanejo as heaven, film critic Mark Kermode wrote that it can also be interpreted as a Nietzschean form of guiltlessness achieved outside traditional notions of good and evil, where the amnesia offered is the destruction rather than forgiveness of sin, meaning Andy's aim is secular and atheistic. Just as Andy can be interpreted as a Christ-like figure, he can be seen as a Zarathustra-like prophet offering escape through education and the experience of freedom. 25. Film critic Roger Ebert argued that The Shawshank Redemption is an allegory for maintaining one's feeling of self-worth when placed in a hopeless position. Andy's integrity is an important theme in the storyline, especially in prison, where integrity is lacking. 27. Robbins himself believes that the concept of Zihuatanejo resonates with audiences because it represents a form of escape that can be achieved after surviving for many years within whatever jail someone finds themselves in, whether a bad relationship, job, or environment. Robbins said that it is important that such a place exists for us. 28. Isaac M. Morehouse suggests that the film provides a great illustration of how characters can be free, even in prison, or imprisoned, even in freedom, based on their outlooks on life. 29. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre described freedom as an ongoing project that requires attention and resilience, without which a person begins to be defined by others or institutions, mirroring Red's belief that inmates become dependent on the prison to define their lives. Andy displays resilience through rebellion, by playing music over the prison loudspeaker, and refusing to continue with the money laundering scam. 3. Many elements can be considered as tributes to the power of cinema. In the prison theater, the inmates watch the film Gilda, 1946, but this scene was originally intended to feature The Lost Weekend, 1945. The interchangeability of the films used in the prison theater suggests that it is the cinematic experience and not the subject that is key to the scene, allowing the men to escape the reality of their situation. 30. Immediately following this scene, Andy is assaulted by the sisters in the projector room and uses a film reel to help fight them off. 31. At the end of the film, Andy passes through a hole in his cell hidden by a movie poster to escape both his cell and ultimately Shawshank. 32. Andy and Red's relationship has been described as a non-sexual story between two men. 33. That few other films offer, as the friendship is not built on conducting a caper, car chases, or developing a relationship with women. 34. Philosopher Alexander Hooke argued that Andy and Red's true freedom is their friendship, being able to share joy and humor with each other. 3. Production. Development. A Caucasian, bald man wearing glasses and a dark shirt, he looks down at a book and pen held in his hands. Director Frank Darabont, pictured in 2011, bought the adaptation rights to the Shawshank Redemption for $5,000 in 1987. Frank Darabont first collaborated with author Stephen King in 1983 on the short film adaptation of King's 1978 collection Night Shift story The Woman in the Room, buying the rights from him for $1 deal that King used to help new directors build a resume by adapting his short stories. 8. After receiving his first screenwriting credit in 1987 for A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Darabont returned to King with $5,00035, $13,839 in 2024, to purchase the rights to adapt Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, a 96-page novella from King's 1982 collection Different Seasons, written to explore genres other than the horror stories for which he was commonly known. 36. Although King did not understand how the story, largely focused on Red contemplating his fellow prisoner Andy, could be turned into a feature film, Darabont believed it was obvious. 8. King never cashed the $5,000 check from Darabont. He later framed it and returned it to Darabont accompanied by a note which read, "In case you ever need bail money. Love, Steve." 37. 5 years later, Darabont wrote the script over an 8-week period. He expanded on elements of King's story. Brooks, who in the novella is a minor character who dies in a retirement home, became a tragic character who eventually hanged himself. Tommy, who in the novella trades his evidence exonerating Andy for transfer to a nicer prison, in the screenplay is murdered on the orders of Warden Norton, who is a composite of several Warden characters in King's story. 8. Darabont opted to create a single Warden character to serve as the primary antagonist. 38. Among his inspirations, Darabont listed the works of director Frank Capra, including Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, and It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, describing them as tall tales. Darabont likened The Shawshank Redemption to a tall tale more than a prison movie. 39. He also cited Goodfellas, 1990, as an inspiration on the use of dialogue to illustrate the passage of time in the script, and the prison drama Birdman of Alcatraz, 1962, directed by John Frankenheimer. 40. While later scouting filming locations, Darabont happened upon Frankenheimer, who was scouting for his own prison set 1994 action historical drama television project Against the Wall. Darabont recalled that Frankenheimer took time out from his scouting to provide Darabont with encouragement and advice. 41. At the time, prison-based films were not considered likely box office successes, but Darabont's script was read by then Castle Rock Entertainment producer Liz Glotzer, whose interest in prison stories and reaction to the script led her to threaten to quit if Castle Rock Entertainment did not produce The Shawshank Redemption. 8. Director and Castle Rock Entertainment co-founder Rob Reiner also liked the script. He offered Darabont between $2.40 million $42 and $3 million to allow him to direct it himself. 8. Reiner, who had previously adapted King's 1982 novella The Body into the 1986 film Stand By Me, planned to cast Tom Cruise as Andy and Harrison Ford as Red. 843. Castle Rock Entertainment offered to finance any other film Darabont wanted to develop. Darabont seriously considered the offer, citing growing up poor in Los Angeles, believing it would elevate his standing in the industry, and that Castle Rock Entertainment could have contractually fired him and given the film to Reiner anyway, but he chose to remain the director, saying in a 2014 Variety interview, "You can continue to defer your dreams in exchange for money and, you know, die without ever having done the thing you set out to do." 8. Reiner served as Darabont's mentor on the project, instead. 8. Within 2 weeks of showing the script to Castle Rock Entertainment, Darabont had a $25 million budget to make his film too, taking a $750,000 screenwriting and directing salary plus a percentage of the net profits, 42, and pre-production began in January 1993. 39b. Casting. A white man with a short white beard, and white and gray curly hair. He wears a white suit with a blue shirt. The man stares away from the camera looking angry. Clancy Brown at the 2015 San Diego Comic-Con. Morgan Freeman was cast at the suggestion of producer Liz Glotzer, who ignored the novella's character description of a white Irishman, nicknamed Red. Freeman's character alludes to the choice when queried by Andy on why he is called Red, replying, "Maybe it's because I'm Irish." 40. Freeman opted not to research his role, saying acting the part of someone who's incarcerated doesn't require any specific knowledge of incarceration, because men don't change. Once you're in that situation, you just toe whatever line you have to toe. 2. Darabont was already aware of Freeman from his minor role in Brubaker, 1980, another prison drama, while Tim Robbins had been excited to work alongside Freeman, having grown up watching him in the Electric Company children's television show. 41. Darabont looked initially at some of his favorite actors, such as Gene Hackman and Robert Duvall, for the role of Andy Dufresne, but they were unavailable. 40. Clint Eastwood and Paul Newman were also considered. 44. Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, and Kevin Costner were offered, and passed on the role. 8. Hanks due to his starring role in Forrest Gump. 40. And Costner because he had the lead in Waterworld. 45. Johnny Depp, Nicolas Cage, and Charlie Sheen were also considered for the role at different stages. 45. Cruise attended table readings of the script, but declined to work for the inexperienced Darabont. 8. Darabont said he cast Robbins after seeing his performance in the 1990 psychological horror Jacob's Ladder. 46. When Robbins was cast, he insisted that Darabont use experienced cinematographer Roger Deakins, who had worked with him on the Hudsucker Proxy. 8. To prepare for the role, Robbins observed caged animals at a zoo, spent an afternoon in solitary confinement, spoke with prisoners and guards. 33. And had his arms and legs shackled for a few hours. 2. Cast initially as young convict Tommy, Brad Pitt dropped out following his success in the 1991 crime drama Thelma and Louise, and the role went to a debuting Gil Bellows. 2. 8. James Gandolfini passed on portraying prison rapist Boggs Diamond. 8. Bob Gunton was filming the 1993 science fiction action Demolition Man when he went to audition for the role of Warden Samuel Norton. To convince the studio that Gunton was right for the part, Darabont and producer Niki Marvin arranged for him to record a screen test on a day off from Demolition Man. They had a wig made for him as his head was shaved for his Demolition Man role. Gunton wanted to portray Norton with hair, as this could then be grayed to convey his on-screen aging as the film progressed. Gunton performed his screen test with Robbins, which was filmed by Deakins. After being confirmed for the role, he used the wig in the film's early scenes until his hair regrew. Gunton said that Marvin and Darabont saw that he understood the character, which went in his favor, as did the fact his height was similar to Robbins, allowing Andy to believably use the warden's suit. 38. Portraying the head guard Byron Hadley, Clancy Brown was given the opportunity to speak with former guards by the production's liaison officer but declined, believing it would not be a good thing to say that his brutal character was in any way inspired by Ohio State correctional officers. 47. William Sadler, who portrays Haywood, said that Darabont had approached him in 1989 on the set of the Tales from the Crypt television series, where he was a writer, about starring in the adaptation he was intending to make. 48 Freeman's son Alfonso has a cameo appearance as a young Red in mugshot photos 40 and as a prisoner shouting fresh fish as Andy arrives at Shawshank. 49 Among the extras used in the film were the former warden and former inmates of the reformatory, and active guards from a nearby incarceration facility. 250 The novella's original title attracted several people to audition for the non-existent role of Rita Hayworth, including a man in drag clothing. 42. Filming. A gray stone building sits at the end of a green field. Ohio State Reformatory, also known as the Mansfield Reformatory, served as the fictional Shawshank Prison. On a $25 million budget, 51 principal photography took place over 3 months between June and August 1993. 52-53 Filming regularly required up to 18-hour workdays, 6 days a week. 8 Freeman described filming as tense, saying, "Most of the time, the tension was between the cast and director. I remember having a bad moment with the director, had a few of those." Freeman referred to Darabont's requiring multiple takes of scenes, which he considered had no discernible differences. For example, the scene where Andy first approaches Red to procure a rock hammer took 9 hours to film and featured Freeman throwing and catching a baseball with another inmate throughout it. The number of takes that were shot resulted in Freeman turning up to filming the following day with his arm in a sling. Freeman sometimes simply refused to do the additional takes. Robbins said that the long days were difficult. Darabont felt that making the film taught him a lot. A director really needs to have an internal barometer to measure what any given actor needs. 8. He found his most frequent struggles were with Deakins. Darabont favored more scenic shots, while Deakins felt that not showing the outside of the prison added a sense of claustrophobia, and it meant that when a wide scenic shot was used, it had more impact. 2. Marvin spent 5 months scouting prisons across the United States and Canada, looking for a site that had a timeless aesthetic, and was completely abandoned, hoping to avoid the complexity of filming the required footage, 4 hours each day, in an active prison with the security difficulties that would entail. 54 Marvin eventually chose the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, to serve as the fictional Shawshank State Penitentiary in Maine, citing its Gothic-style stone and brick buildings. 53-54 The facility had been shuttered 3 years earlier in 1990-55 due to inhumane living conditions. 53. The 15-acre reformatory, housing its own power plant and farm, was partially torn down shortly after filming was completed, leaving the main administration building and 2 cell blocks. 53 Several of the interior shots of the specialized prison facilities, such as the admittance rooms and the warden's office, were shot in the reformatory. The interior of the boarding room used by Brooks and Red was in the administration building. Exterior shots of the boarding house were taken elsewhere. Internal scenes in the prison cell blocks were filmed on a sound stage built inside a nearby shuttered Westinghouse electric factory. Since Darabont wanted the inmates' cells to face each other, almost all the cell block scenes were shot on a purpose-built set housed in the Westinghouse factory. 53 Except for the scene featuring Elmo Blatch's admission of guilt for the crimes for which Andy was convicted. It was filmed in one of the actual prison's more confined cells. 56 scenes were also filmed in Mansfield, as well as neighboring Ashland, Ohio. 57 The oak tree under which Andy buries his letter to Red was located near Malabar Farm State Park, in Lucas, Ohio. 44 It was destroyed by winds in 2016. 58. A large, red brick building with a peeling, white-painted front, a sign on the side of the building is obscured by trees, but partially reads the Bisman Comp. The Bisman building in Mansfield, Ohio, served as the halfway house in which Brooks and later Red would reside following their release from prison. Just as a prison in Ohio stood in for a fictional one in Maine, the beach scene showing Andy and Red's reunion in Zihuatanejo, Mexico, was actually shot in the Caribbean on the island of St. Croix, one of the U.S. Virgin Islands. 59 The beach at Zihuatanejo is the Sandy Point National Wildlife Refuge. 60 A protected area for leatherback sea turtles. 61 scenes shot in Upper Sandusky included the prison wood shop scene where Red and his fellow inmates hear the marriage of Figaro. The wood shop is now called the Shawshank Wood Shop, 44, and the opening court scene which was shot at the Wyandotte County Courthouse. 60 other shooting locations included Pew Cabin in Malabar Farm State Park, where Andy sits outside as his wife engages in an affair. 62 Butler, Ohio, stood in for Buxton, Maine. 63 and the Bisman building in Mansfield served as the halfway house where Brooks stayed following his release. 64. The shot of Andy standing in the thunderstorm, arms open and drenched in rain, is widely considered one of the most significant visuals in cinema. 65-66. For the scene depicting Andy's escape from the prison, Darabont envisioned Andy using his miniature rock hammer to break into the sewage pipe, but he determined that this was not realistic. He opted instead to use a large piece of rock. 65 While the film portrays the iconic scene of Andy escaping to freedom through a sewer pipe described as a river of shit, Robbins crawls through a mixture of water, chocolate syrup, and sawdust. The stream into which Robbins emerges was actually certified toxic by a chemist according to production designer Terrence Marsh. The production team dammed the stream to make it deeper and used chlorination to partially decontaminate it. 49-65 Of the scene, Robbins said, "When you're doing a film, you want to be a good soldier, you don't want to be the one who gets in the way. So you will do things as an actor that are compromising to your physical health and safety." 67. The scene was intended to be much longer and more dramatic, detailing Andy's escape across a field and onto a train, but with only a single night available to film the sequence, it was shortened to showing Andy standing triumphant in the water. 65-66 Of his own work, Deakins considers the scene to be one of his least favorite, saying that he overlit it. 66 In response, Darabont disagreed with Deakins' self-assessment. He said that the time and precision taken by Deakins, and their limited filming schedule, meant he had to be precise in what he could film and how. In a 2019 interview, he stated that he regretted that this meant he could not film a close-up of Robin's face as he climbed down out of the hole from his cell. 65. As for the scene where Andy rebelliously plays music over the prison announcement system, it was Robin's idea for Andy to turn the music up and not shut it off. 49 While in the finished film the inmates watch Rita Hayworth in Gilda, 1946, they were originally intended to be watching Billy Wilder's The Lost Weekend, 1945, a film about the dangers of alcohol. As the footage was too costly to procure from Paramount Pictures, producer Niki Marvin approached the Shawshank Redemption's domestic distribution rights holder Columbia Pictures, which offered a list of lower-priced titles, one of which was Gilda. 68 As filming took place mainly in and around the prison, scenes were often shot in near chronological order respective of the different eras depicted throughout the story. This aided the actors' performances as their real-life relationships evolved alongside those of their respective characters. 65 Darabont commented that the scene in which Andy tells Red about his dreams of going to Mexico, was one of the last filmed and one that he most revisited in recollecting on the film's production. He praised Robbins and Freeman for completing the scene in only a few takes. 41. Post-production. The final cut of the theatrically released film runs for 142 minutes and was dedicated to the memory of Alan Green, Darabont's former agent, who died during filming from AIDS. 69 The film's first edit ran for nearly 2.5 hours, which Glotzer considered long, and several scenes were cut including a longer sequence of Red adjusting to life after incarceration. Darabont said that in test screenings the audience seemed to be getting impatient with the scene as they were already convinced that Red would not make it. 33 Another scene cut for time showed a prison guard investigating Andy's escape tunnel. This was thought to slow down the action. 70 The film originally had a cold open that played out Andy's crime, with his trial playing throughout the opening credits, but these scenes were edited together to create a more punchy opening. 71 One scripted scene, which Darabont described as his best work, was left unfilmed because of the shooting schedule. 72 In the scene, a dreaming Red is sucked into the poster of Rita Hayworth to find himself alone and insignificant on the Pacific shore, saying, "I am terrified, there is no way home." Darabont said that he regretted being unable to capture the scene. 73. In Darabont's original vision for the end of the film, Red is seen riding a bus towards the Mexican border, leaving his fate ambiguous. Glotzer insisted on including the scene of Red and Andy reuniting in Zihuatanejo. She said Darabont felt this was a commercial, sappy ending, but Glotzer wanted the audience to see them together. 8. Castle Rock agreed to finance filming for the scene without requiring its inclusion, guaranteeing Darabont the final decision. 74. The scene originally featured a longer reunion in which Andy and Red recited dialogue from their first meeting, but Darabont said it had a golly gee anti-wee cute quality and excised it. 75. The beach reunion was test audience's favorite scene. Both Freeman and Robbins felt it provided the necessary closure. Darabont agreed to include the scene after seeing the test audience reactions, saying, "I think it's a magical and uplifting place for our characters to arrive at the end of their long saga." 74. Music. Main article, The Shawshank Redemption, soundtrack. The film's score was composed by Thomas Newman. He felt that it already elicited such strong emotions without music that he found it difficult to compose one that would elevate scenes without distracting from them. The piece, Shawshank Redemption, plays during Andy's escape from Shawshank and originally had a three-note motif, but Darabont felt it had too much of a triumphal flourish and asked that it be toned down to a single-note motif. So was Red, played following Red's release from prison, and leading to his discovery of Andy's cache, became one of Newman's favorite pieces. The piece was initially written for a solo oboe, until Newman reluctantly agreed to add harmonica, a reference to the harmonica Red receives from Andy to continue his message of hope. According to Darabont, harmonica player Tommy Morgan casually delivered something dead-on perfect on the first take, and this is heard in the finished film. 76. Newman's score was so successful that excerpts from it were used in movie trailers for years afterwards. 36. Release. Theatrical. Leading up to its release, the film was test-screened with the public. These were described as through the roof, and Glotzer said they were some of the best she had seen. 877. It was decided to mostly omit Stephen King's name from any advertising, as the studio wanted to attract a more prestigious audience, who might reject a film from a writer known mostly for pulp fiction works such as The Shining and Cujo. 78. Following early September premieres at the Renaissance Theatre in Mansfield, and the Toronto International Film Festival 1579, The Shawshank Redemption began a limited North American release on September 23, 1994. During its opening weekend, the film grossed $727,327 from 33 theaters, an average of $22,040 per theater. Following a Hollywood tradition of visiting different theaters on opening night to see the audiences view their film live, Darabont and Glotzer went to the Cinerama Dome, but found no one there. Glotzer claimed that the pair actually sold 2 tickets outside the theater with the promise that if the buyers did not like the film, they could ask Castle Rock Entertainment for a refund. 8. While critics praised the film, Glotzer believed that a lackluster review from the Los Angeles Times pushed crowds away. 877. It received a wide release on October 14, 1994, expanding to a total of 944 theaters to earn $2.40 million, an average of $2,545 per theater, finishing as the number 9 film of the weekend, behind sex comedy Exit to Eden, $3 million, and just ahead of the historical drama Quiz Show, $2.1 million, which was in its 5th week at the cinemas. 3651. The Shawshank Redemption closed in late November 1994, after 10 weeks with an approximate total gross of $16 million. 80. It was initially considered a box office bomb, failing to recoup its $25 million budget, not including marketing costs and the cinema exhibitors' cuts. 8. The film was also competing with Pulp Fiction, $108 million, which also premiered October 14 following its Palme d'Or award win, and Forrest Gump, $330 million, 35, which was in the middle of a successful 42-week theatrical run. 77 Both films would become quotable cultural phenomena. A general audience trend towards action films starring the likes of Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger was also considered to work against the commercial success of The Shawshank Redemption. 8 Freeman blamed the title, saying it was unmemorable. 8 While Robbins recalled fans asking, "What was that Shawshank Redemption thing?" 21. Several alternative titles had been posited before the release due to concerns that it was not a marketable title. 48 The low box office was also blamed on a lack of female characters to broaden the audience demographics, the general unpopularity of prison films, and the bleak tone used in its marketing. 21 41. After being nominated for several Oscars in early 1995, the film was re-released between February and March, earning a further $12 million. 41 In total, the film grossed $28.3 million in the United States and Canada, $51 and $45 million 81 from other markets for a worldwide total of $73.3 million. In the United States, it became the 51st highest grossing film of 1994, and the 21st highest grossing R-rated film of 1994. 51. Post-theatrical. Despite its disappointing box office returns, in what was then considered a risky move, Warner Home Video shipped 320,000 rental video copies throughout the United States in 1995. It went on to become the top rented film of that year. 3682 Positive recommendations, repeat customer viewings, and being well received by both male and female audiences were considered key to the film's rental success. 21. Ted Turner's Turner Broadcasting System had acquired Castle Rock Entertainment in 1993, which enabled his television channel, TNT, to obtain the cable broadcast rights to the film. 35 According to Glotzer, because of the low box office numbers, TNT could air the film at a very low cost, but still charge premium advertising rates. The film began airing regularly on the network in June 1997. 35 8 Television airings of the film accrued record-breaking numbers 21, and its repeated broadcast was considered essential to turning the film into a cultural phenomenon after its poor box office performance. 8 Darabont felt the turning point for the film's success was the Academy Award nominations, saying nobody had heard of the movie, and that year on the Oscar broadcast, they were mentioning this movie 7 times. 46 In 1996, the rights to The Shawshank Redemption were acquired by Warner Bros. Pictures, following the merger of its parent company Time Warner with the Turner Broadcasting System. 83. In the United Kingdom, the film was watched by 1.11 million viewers on the subscription television channel Film 4 in 2006, making it the year's second most watched film on subscription digital television. 84. By 2013, The Shawshank Redemption had aired on 15 basic cable networks, and in that year occupied 151 hours of airtime, rivaling Scarface, 1983, and Behind Only Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993. It was in the top 15% of movies among adults between the ages of 18 and 49 on the Spike, Up, Sundance TV, and Lifetime channels. Despite its mainly male cast, it was the most watched movie on the female-targeted OWN network. In a 2014 Wall Street Journal article, based on the Margin Studios' take from box office returns, home media sales, and television licensing, The Shawshank Redemption had made an estimated $100 million. Jeff Baker, then Executive Vice President and General Manager of Warner Bros. Home Entertainment, said that the home video sales had earned about $80 million. 35 While finances for licensing the film for television are unknown, in 2014, current and former Warner Bros. Executives confirmed that it was one of the highest valued assets in the studio's $1.5 billion library. 85 That same year, Gunton said that by its 10th anniversary in 2004, he was still earning six-figure residual payments, and was still earning a substantial income from it, which was considered unusual so many years after its release. 86. Reception. Critical response. An older man with medium-length white hair and tanned skin smiles at the camera. Roger Deakins' cinematography was praised by critics 87-88 and his work led to him winning the American Society of Cinematographers Award for Outstanding Achievement in Cinematography. 89. The Shawshank Redemption opened to generally positive reviews. 1991-92 Some reviewers compared the film to other well-received prison dramas, including Birdman of Alcatraz, Cool Hand Luke, and Riot in Cell Block 11. 93-94 Gene Siskel said that, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Shawshank Redemption is an inspirational drama about overcoming overbearing authority. 94 Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale. 95. Entertainment Weekly's Owen Gleiberman said that Freeman makes the Red character feel genuine and lived in. 5. Janet Maslin of the New York Times said that Freeman was quietly impressive, but lamented that Red's role in the film had limited range, restricted to observing Andy. She considered Freeman's commanding performance made him a much stronger figure than simply an observer. Maslin said that Freeman's performance was especially moving when describing how dependent Red had become on living within the prison walls. 96 Variety's Leonard Klady suggested that Freeman had the showier role, allowing him a grace and dignity that came naturally, without ever becoming banal. 87 and the Washington Post's Desson Howe called Freeman a master of comedic and poignant cadence. 97 Even Kenneth Turan's Los Angeles Times review, which Glotzer credited with derailing the film's box office success, praised Freeman, saying his effortless screen presence lends Shawshank the closest thing to credibility it can manage. 98. Of Robbins' performance, Gleiberman said that in his laconic good guy, Neo Gary Cooper role, Robbins is unable to make Andy connect with the audience. 5. Conversely, Maslin said that Andy has the more subdued role, but that Robbins portrays him intensely, and effectively depicts the character as he transitions from new prisoner to aged father figure. 96 and Klady stated that his riveting, unfussy, precise, honest, and seamless performance anchors the film. 87 Howe said that while the character is cheesily messianic for easily charming everyone to his side, comparing him to Forrest Gump Goes to Jail, Robbins exudes the perfect kind of innocence to sell the story. 97 The Hollywood Reporter stated that both Freeman and Robbins gave outstanding, layered performances that imbued their characters with individuality. 88 and Rolling Stone's Peter Travers said that the pair created something undeniably powerful and moving. 93 Gunton and Brown were deemed by Klady as extremely credible in their villainy. 87 While Howe countered that Gunton's warden was a cliched character who extols religious virtues while having people murdered. 97. Maslin called the film an impressive directorial debut that tells a gentle tale with a surprising amount of loving care. 96 While Klady said the only failings came when Darabont focused for too long on supporting characters, or embellished a secondary story. 87 The Hollywood Reporter said that both the directing and writing were crisp, while criticizing the film's long running time. 88 Klady said that the length and tone, while tempered by humor and unexpected events, would dampen the film's mainstream appeal, but the story offered a fascinating portrait of the innate humanity of the inmates. 87 Gleiberman disliked that the prisoners' crimes were overlooked to portray them more as good guys. 5 Turan similarly objected to what he perceived as extreme violence and rape scenes, and making most of the prisoners seem like a bunch of swell and soft-hearted guys to cast the prison experience in a rosy glow. 98 Klady summarized the film as estimable and haunting entertainment, comparing it to a rough diamond with small flaws. 87 But Howe criticized it for deviating with multiple subplots, and pandering by choosing to resolve the story with Andy and Red's reunion, rather than leaving the mystery. 97 Ebert noted that the story works because it is not about Andy as the hero, but how Red perceives him. 79. Deacon's cinematography was roundly praised. 87, with The Hollywood Reporter calling it foreboding and well-crafted. 88, and Traverse saying the everyday agonies of prison life are meticulously laid out. You can almost feel the frustration and rage seeping into the skin of the inmates. 93, Gleiberman praised the choice of scenery, writing the moss dark, saturated images have a redolent sensuality, you feel as if you could reach out and touch the prison walls. 5, The Hollywood Reporter said of Newman's score, at its best moments, alights with radiant textures and sprightly grace notes, nicely emblematic of the film's central theme. 88, and Leckie described it as the right balance between the somber and the absurd. 87. Accolades. The film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards in 1995, the most for a Stephen King film adaptation. 99, Best Picture, Marvin, Best Actor, Freeman, Best Adapted Screenplay, Darabont, Best Cinematography, Deakins, Best Film Editing, Richard Francis Bruce, Best Sound, Robert J. Litt, Elliot Tyson, Michael Herbeck, and Willie D. Burton, 100, and Best Original Score, Newman, his first Academy Award nomination. 76, it did not win in any category. 99, it received 2 Golden Globe Award nominations for Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture for Freeman, and Best Screenplay for Darabont. 101. Robbins and Freeman were both nominated for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Leading Role at the inaugural Screen Actors Guild Awards in 1995. 102, Darabont was nominated for a Directors Guild of America Award in 1994 for Best Director of a Feature Film. 103, and a Writers Guild of America Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. 104, Deakins won the American Society of Cinematographers Award for Outstanding Achievement in Cinematography. 89, while producer Niki Marvin was nominated for a 1994 Golden Laurel Award by the Producers Guild of America. 104. Legacy. A black and white photo of a bare tree standing in a field, the tree leans to the right of the image. The Shawshank tree after being split by lightning in 2011. It had been a symbol of hope after its role in the film. Darabont later adapted and directed 2 other King stories, The Green Mile, 1999, and The Mist, 2007. 105, in a 2016 interview, King said that The Shawshank Redemption was his favorite adaptation of his work, alongside Stand By Me. 106. The oak tree, under which Andy leaves a note for Red directing him to Zihuatanejo, became a symbol of hope for its role in the film, and is considered iconic. 58. 107, in 2016, the New York Times reported that the tree attracted thousands of visitors annually. 108, the tree was partially destroyed on July 29, 2011, when it was split by lightning, and news of the damage was reported by U.S. and international publications. 107. 109, the tree was completely felled by strong winds on or around July 22, 2016. 107, and its vestiges were cut down in April 2017. 110, the remains were turned into the Shawshank Redemption memorabilia, including rock hammers and magnets. 111. The prison site, which was planned to be fully torn down after filming 55. 112, became a tourist attraction. 53. The Mansfield Reformatory Preservation Society, a group of enthusiasts of the film, purchased the building and site from Ohio for $1 in 2000 and took up maintaining it as a historical landmark, both as its purpose as a prison and as the filming site. 55. 113, a 2019 report estimated the attraction to be earning $16 million in annual revenue. 41. Many of the rooms and props remain there, including the false pipe through which Andy escapes. 55, and a portion of the oak tree from the finale, after it was damaged in 2011. 44. The surrounding area is also visited by fans, while local businesses market shawshanishas and bundt cakes in the shape of the prison. 55. According to the Mansfield/Richland County Convention and Visitors Bureau, later renamed Destination Mansfield, 59 tourism in the area had increased every year since the Shawshank Redemption premiered, and in 2013 drew in 18,000 visitors and over $3 million to the local economy. 44 As of 2019, Destination Mansfield operates the Shawshank Trail, a series of 15 marked stops around locations related to the film across Mansfield, Ashland, Upper Sandusky, and St. Croix. The trail earned $16.9 million in revenue in 2018. 59-114. In late August 2014, a series of events was held in Mansfield to celebrate the film's 20th anniversary, including a screening of the film at the Renaissance Theater, a bus tour of certain filming locations, and a cocktail party at the Reformatory. Cast from the film attended some of the events, including Gunton, Scott Mann, Renee Blaine, and James Kisicki. 15 The 25th anniversary was similarly celebrated in August 2019. 115 guests included Darabont, Blaine, Mann, Gunton, Alfonso Freeman 114 Bellows, Ralston, Claire Slemmer 116 and Frank Medrano. 117 Darabont stated that only at this event, the first time he had returned to Mansfield, was he able to realize the lasting impact of the film, stating, "It is a very surreal feeling to be back all these years later and people are still talking about it." 112. Critical reassessment. Contemporary review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes gives the film an 89% approval rating from 146 critics, with an average rating of 8.30/10. The consensus reads, "Steeped in old-fashioned storytelling and given evergreen humanity by Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins, The Shawshank Redemption chronicles the hardship of incarceration patiently enough to come by its uplift honestly." 118. The film also has a score of 82 out of 100 on Metacritic based on 22 critics indicating universal acclaim. 119. In 1999, film critic Roger Ebert listed Shawshank on his list of the great movies. 92. The American Film Institute ranked the film number 72 on its 2007 AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition list, outranking Forrest Gump, 76, and Pulp Fiction, 94, which were released the same year. 121. It was also number 23 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Cheers, 2006, list charting inspiring films. 122. In 2005, the Writers Guild of America listed Darabont's screenplay at number 22 on its list of the 101 greatest screenplays 123, and in 2006, Film 4 listed it number 13 on its list of 50 films to see before you die. 124. In 2014, The Shawshank Redemption was named Hollywood's fourth favorite film, based on a survey of 2,120 Hollywood-based entertainment industry members. Entertainment lawyers skewed the most towards the film. 125. In 2017, the Daily Telegraph named it the 17th best prison film ever made. 126. And USA Today listed it as one of the 50 best films of all time. 127. In 2019, Games Radar Plus listed its ending as one of the best of all time. 128. The Shawshank Redemption appeared on several lists of the greatest films of the 1990s, by outlets including Paste and NME, 2012, 129 130 Complex, 2013, 131 Chud.com, 2014, 132 MSN, 2015, 133 The Wrap, 134 Maxim, 135 and Rolling Stone, all 2017. 136. Cultural influence. In November 2014, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences celebrated the film's 20th anniversary with a special one-night screening at the Samuel Goldwyn Theater in Beverly Hills, California. 46. In 2015, The film was selected by the United States Library of Congress to be preserved in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Darabont responded, "I can think of no greater honor than for the Shawshank Redemption to be considered part of our country's cinematic legacy." 90. Variety said that the word Shawshank could be used to instantly convey images of a prison. 36. The significant and enduring public appreciation for the film has often been difficult for critics to define. 90. In an interview, Freeman said, "About everywhere you go, people say, 'The Shawshank Redemption greatest movie I ever saw,' and that such praise just comes out of them." Robbins said, "I swear to God, all over the world wherever I go, there are people who say, 'That movie changed my life.'" 8. In a separate interview, Stephen King said, "If that isn't the best adaptation of my works, it's one of the 2 or 3 best, and certainly, in moviegoers' minds, it's probably the best because it generally rates at the top of these surveys they have of movies. I never expected anything to happen with it." 137. In a 2014 Variety article, Robbins claimed that South African politician Nelson Mandela told him about his love for the film 8, while it has been cited as a source of inspiration by several sportsmen including Johnny Wilkinson, UK, Augustin Pichot, Argentina, Al Charon, Canada, and Dan Lyle, USA, 138, and Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. 139. Gunton said he had encountered fans in Morocco, Australia, South America, 140 Germany, France, and Bora Bora. 38. Director Steven Spielberg said that the film was a chewing gum movie. If you step on it, it sticks to your shoe. 40. Speaking on the film's 25th anniversary, Darabont said that older generations were sharing it with younger generations, contributing to its longevity. 41. It has been the #1 film on IMDb's user-generated top 250 since 2008, when it surpassed The Godfather, having remained at or near the top since the late 1990s. 878. In the United Kingdom, readers of Empire voted the film as the best of the 1990s, the greatest film of all time in 2006, and it placed number 4 on Empire's 2008 list of the 500 greatest movies of all time and their 2017 list of the 100 greatest movies. 21. 141, 142, 143. In March 2011, the film was voted by BBC Radio 1 and BBC Radio 1 Extra listeners as their favorite film of all time. 144. It regularly appears on Empire's Top 100 Films, was named the greatest film to not win the Academy Award for Best Picture in a 2013 poll by Sky UK, it lost to Forrest Gump, 145, and ranked as Britain's favourite film in a 2015 YouGov poll. When the British Film Institute analysed the demographic breakdown of the YouGov poll, it noted that The Shawshank Redemption was not the top-ranked film in any group, but was the only film to appear in the top 15 of every age group, suggesting it is able to connect with every polled age group, unlike Pulp Fiction, which fared better with younger voters, and Gone with the Wind, 1939, with older voters. 77. A 2017 poll conducted by Gatwick Airport also identified the film as the 4th best to watch while in flight. 146. When English film critic Mark Kermode interviewed a host of United States moviegoers, they compared it to a religious experience. 77. It was also voted as New Zealand's favourite film in a 2015 poll. 147. Lasting fan appreciation has led to it being considered one of the most beloved films of all time. Morgan Freeman II, born June 1, 1937, is an American actor, producer, and narrator. In a career spanning 6 decades, he has received numerous accolades, including an Academy Award and a Golden Globe Award, as well as a nomination for a Grammy Award and a Tony Award. He was honored with the Kennedy Center Honor in 2008, an AFI Life Achievement Award in 2011, the Cecil B. DeMille Award in 2012, and Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award in 2018. In a 2022 Readers' poll by Empire, he was voted one of the 50 greatest actors of all time. 3. Born in Memphis, Tennessee, Freeman was raised in Mississippi, where he began acting in school plays. He studied theater arts in Los Angeles and appeared in stage productions in his early career. He rose to fame in the 1970s for his role in the children's television series The Electric Company. Freeman then appeared in the Shakespearean plays Coriolanus and Julius Caesar, the former of which earned him an Obie Award. In 1978, he was nominated for the Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Play for his role as Zeke in the Richard Wesley play The Mighty Gents. Freeman received the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor playing a former boxer in Clint Eastwood's sports drama $1 Million Baby, 2004. He was Oscar nominated for Street Smart, 1987, Driving Miss Daisy, 1989, The Shawshank Redemption, 1994, and Invictus, 2009. He also acted in Glory, 1989, Lean on Me, 1989, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991, Unforgiven, 1992, Seven, 1995, Amistad, 1997, Deep Impact, 1998, Gone Baby Gone, 2007, and The Bucket List, 2007. He also portrayed Lucius Fox in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, 2005 to 2012, and acted in the action films Wanted, 2008, Red, 2010, Oblivion, 2013, the Now You See Me films, 2013 to 2025, and Lucy, 2014. Known for his distinctive voice, he has narrated numerous documentaries including The Long Way Home, 1997, March of the Penguins, 2005, Through the Wormhole, 2010 to 2017, The Story of God with Morgan Freeman, 2016 to 2019, Our Universe, 2022, and Life on Our Planet, 2023. He made his directorial debut with the drama Bofa. 1993. He founded the film production company Revelations Entertainment with business partner Laurie McCreary in 1996, under which they produced projects such as the CBS political drama Madam Secretary, 2014 to 2019. Early life and education. Freeman was born on June 1, 1937 in Memphis, Tennessee. 4. He is the son of Mamie Edna, née Revere, 1912 to 2000, a teacher. 5. And Morgan Porterfield Freeman, July 6, 1915 to April 27, 1961, 2. A barber, who died of cirrhosis in 1961. 6. He has 3 older siblings. 7. Some of Morgan's great-great-grandparents were slaves who migrated from North Carolina to Mississippi. He later discovered that his white maternal great-great-grandfather had lived with and was buried beside Freeman's black great-great-grandmother in the segregated South, as the two could not legally marry at the time. 5. The DNA test suggested that among all of his African ancestors, a little over 1/4 came from the area that stretches from present-day Senegal to Liberia and 3/4 came from the Congo-Angola region. 8. As an infant, Freeman was sent to his paternal grandmother in Charleston, Mississippi. 9. 10. He moved frequently during his childhood, living in Greenwood, Mississippi, Gary, Indiana, and finally Chicago. 10. He made his acting debut aged 9, playing the lead role in a school play. He then attended Broad Street High School, a building which serves today as Threadgill Elementary School in Greenwood. 11. At the age of 12, he won a statewide drama competition, and while settling into school, discovered music and theater. When Freeman was 16 years old, he contracted pneumonia. 12. Freeman graduated high school in 1955, but turned down a partial drama scholarship from Jackson State University, opting instead to enlist in the United States Air Force. 6. He served as an automatic tracking radar repairman, rising to the rank of Airman First Class. 13. After serving from 1955 to 1959, he moved to Los Angeles and took acting classes at the Pasadena Playhouse. 6. He also studied theater arts at Los Angeles City College, where a teacher encouraged him to embark on a dance career. 14. Career. 1964 to 1988, early work and rise to prominence. Freeman worked as a dancer at the 1964 World's Fair and was a member of the Opera Ring musical theater group in San Francisco. 15. He acted in a touring company version of The Royal Hunt of the Sun, and also appeared as an extra in Sidney Lumet's 1965 drama film The Pawnbroker starring Rod Steiger. 15. Between acting and dancing jobs, Freeman realized that acting was where his heart lay. After The Royal Hunt of the Sun, my acting career just took off, he later recalled. 15. Freeman made his off-Broadway debut in 1967, opposite Viveca Lindfors in The Nigger Lovers, a show about the Freedom Riders during the American Civil Rights Movement. 16. Before debuting on Broadway in 1968's all-black version of Hello, Dolly. That also starred Pearl Bailey and Cab Calloway. 17. In 1969, Freeman also performed on stage in The Dozens. 18. Beginning in 1971, Freeman starred in the PBS children's television show The Electric Company, which gave him financial stability and recognition among American audiences. 10. His work on the show was tiring, so he quit in 1975. 14. Television producer Joan Gans Cooney said that Freeman loathed appearing in The Electric Company, saying it was a very unhappy period in his life. 19. Freeman later acknowledged that he does not think about the show, but he was grateful to have been a part of it. 20. His first credited appearance in a feature film was in 1971's Who Says I Can't Ride a Rainbow, a family drama starring Jack Klugman. 18. Also that year, Freeman performed in a theater production of Pearly. 21. After a short career break, he returned to work in 1978, appearing in 2 stage productions, 1978's The Mighty Gents, winning a Drama Desk Award and a Clarence Derwent Award for his role as a wino 22 and White Pelicans. 23. Freeman continued to work in theater and a year later, appeared in the Shakespearean tragedies Coriolanus, receiving the Obie Award in 1980 for the title role. 15. As well as Julius Caesar. 24. In 1980, he had a small role as Walter in the drama Brubaker, which starred Robert Redford as a prison warden. 25. Freeman next appeared in the television film, Attica, 1980, which is about the 1971 Attica prison riot and its aftermath. 26. A year later he had a lead role in Peter Yates' Eyewitness with co-stars William Hurt and Sigourney Weaver. 27. From 1982 to 1984, Freeman was a cast member of the soap opera Another World, playing architect Roy Bingham. 28. After several small roles in dramas, he starred in Marie, 1985, a film adaptation of Marie, a true story by Peter Moss. He portrayed Charles Trauber. 29. He also appeared in the miniseries The Atlanta Child Murders. 30. Freeman also had a small role in the drama That Was Then, This Is Now, based on the novel of the same name by S.E. Hinton. 31. In the mid-1980s, he began accepting prominent supporting roles in feature films, earning him a reputation for depicting wise, fatherly characters. 10. In addition to television films, in 1987, Freeman played a violent street hustler, a role that diverged from his previous roles, in Street Smart co-starring Christopher Reeve and Kathy Baker. Freeman's performance was praised by film critics, including Roger Ebert, who wrote, "Freeman has the flashier role, as a smart, very tough man who can be charming or intimidating, whatever's needed. Freeman creates such an unforgettable villain." 32. Freeman's performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. 33. He later said that he considered Street Smart to be his breakthrough role. 20. In his next film, he played Craig in the drama Clean and Sober with co-stars Michael Keaton and Kathy Baker. Although the film was not a box office hit, it gained fair reviews. Roger Ebert gave the film 3.12 out of 4 stars and called the performances superb. 34 Freeman also received Obie Awards for his roles as a preacher in the musical The Gospel at Colonus, and as Hoke Colburn in the play Driving Miss Daisy, respectively. 15. 1989 to 1996, Hollywood breakthrough. Freeman in 1998. Freeman had 4 film releases in 1989. In the first, he starred as Sergeant Major John Rollins in Glory, directed by Edward Zwick, about the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, the Union Army's 2nd African American regiment in the American Civil War. Writing for the Washington Post, Desson Thomson praised Freeman and co-star Denzel Washington for their warming sense of fraternity. 35 Glory was nominated for 5 Academy Awards and won 3, Best Supporting Actor for Washington, Best Cinematography, and Best Sound. 36 Next, Freeman starred in the comedy drama Driving Miss Daisy, alongside Jessica Tandy and Dan Aykroyd. Based on Alfred Urry's play of the same name in which Freeman had appeared previously, he reprises his role of Hoke Colburn, chauffeur for a Jewish widow. The film was a commercial success and grossed $145 million worldwide. 37 film critics were mainly positive. Henry Sheehan from The Hollywood Reporter opined that Freeman and Tandy's performances complemented each other while retaining their individual star quality. 38 The film was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, and received 4, Best Picture being one of them, including Best Actor for Freeman. 36. His third release was the biographical drama Lean on Me, in which he portrays the principal of an underperforming and drug and crime-ridden New Jersey high school. Jane Galbraith of Variety magazine thought Freeman's casting was wonderful. 39 Lastly, in 1989, he starred in Walter Hill's Johnny Handsome, a crime drama in which he plays a New Orleans police officer. 40 In a 1990 interview, Freeman said that Glory was one of his favorite releases. The Black legacy is as noble, is as heroic, is as filled with adventure and conquest and discovery as anybody else's. It's just that nobody knows it. 14. In 1990, Freeman provided the voice of Frederick Douglass in The Civil War, a television miniseries about the American Civil War. 41 In the same year he played a key role in the critically panned The Bonfire of the Vanities. According to the review aggregate site Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 16% based on 51 reviews. 42 In the summer of 1990, he played Petruchio, a role he had been thinking about for 6 years, in Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, which opened at Delacorte Theatre in New York City. Petruchio seems to have a lot of fun in life, he said. 43 In 1991, Freeman had a supporting role in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, an action-adventure starring Kevin Costner. The film was a commercial success. 44 But garnered mixed reviews from critics. The New York Times' Vincent Canby thought Freeman played Azim with wit and humor despite the muddled plot. 45. Freeman at the 62nd Academy Awards in 1990. Freeman also narrated The True Story of Glory Continues, a documentary about the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. 46 In 1992, he appeared in Clint Eastwood's Western Unforgiven, which won 4 Academy Awards including Best Picture. 47 The film depicts William Money, Eastwood, an aging outlaw and killer who takes on one more job with old friend Ned Logan, Freeman. Unforgiven was widely acclaimed, with one critic calling Freeman's performance outstanding. 48 Also in 1992 Freeman starred in the John G. Avildsen-directed drama The Power of One, acting opposite Stephen Dorff and John Gielgud in a loose adaptation of Bryce Courtenay's 1989 novel of the same name, in which he plays boxing coach Gilpede. 49 In 1993, Freeman made his directorial debut with the drama Bofa, which tells the story of a black policeman, Danny Glover, during South Africa's apartheid era. Bofa was well received, in particular for Freeman's directing. Hal Hinson of the Washington Post wrote, Freeman lays out the father-son dynamics with great skill and very little fuss. There's no hysteria in his approach, instead, he sticks to the facts, relying on his cast to provide the emotion. The result is a surprisingly powerful, insightful film. 50. Kenneth Turan from Los Angeles Times also complimented Freeman's direction but thought the film was more predictable than powerful. 51. In 1994, Freeman portrayed Red, the redeemed convict in Frank Darabont's acclaimed drama The Shawshank Redemption, with co-star Tim Robbins. It is based on the 1982 Stephen King novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Freeman was cast at the suggestion of producer Liz Glotzer, despite the novella's character of a white Irishman. 52. Filming proved to be challenging, mainly because of Darabont's need for multiple takes. Freeman said, "The answer I'd give him was no, having to do something again and again for no discernible reason tends to be a bit debilitating to the energy." 52. Nevertheless, his performance was described as quietly impressive and moving by the New York Times. 53. At the 67th Academy Awards, the film received Academy Award nominations for Best Picture and a nomination for Freeman for Best Actor, losing to Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump, 1994. 54. Since its release, The Shawshank Redemption has remained popular among audiences. 52. In 1994, Freeman served as a member of the jury at the 44th Berlin International Film Festival. 55. Outbreak, 1995, a medical thriller directed by Wolfgang Petersen, was Freeman's next film. He played General Billy Ford, a doctor dealing with an outbreak of a fictional virus in a small town. The film stars Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, and Donald Sutherland. Outbreak was a box office success, grossing $189.8 million worldwide. 56. But gained a mixed critics' response. 57. Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle credited Freeman for his performance, which may have been unappreciated by viewers. 58. In 1995, Freeman starred with Brad Pitt in David Fincher's crime thriller Seven, the story of two detectives who attempt to identify a serial killer who bases his murders on the Christian seven deadly sins. Freeman's performance generated a positive response. Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly wrote, "Freeman plays nearly every scene in a doleful hush. He makes you lean in to hear his words, to ferret out the hints of anger and regret that haunt this weary night." 59. The critic from Variety magazine called Freeman's acting supremely nuanced. 60. While filming Outbreak, Freeman expressed an interest in starting a film production company. He turned to McCreary, the producer of BOFA, to be his business partner. Freeman explained that he wanted to achieve representation on screen, explore challenging issues and reveal hidden truths, so they chose to name their firm Revelations Entertainment. 61. A year later, he appeared in Chain Reaction as Paul Shannon, a science fiction thriller co-starring Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz. The film was a critical and commercial disappointment. 62-63. Next, he was cast opposite Robin Wright in 1990's IXS Moll Flanders, a period drama based on the novel of the same name. The film received a mixed reception. Greg Evans from Variety magazine said Freeman gave a sweet performance. 64. While the New York Times critic thought he was miscast. 65. 1997 to 2004, critical success and established actor. Freeman in 1998. In 1997, Freeman narrated the Academy Award-winning documentary The Long Way Home, about Jewish refugees' liberation after World War II and the establishment of Israel. 23. He also appeared in Steven Spielberg's historical epic Amistad alongside Ji Min-hoon Soo, Anthony Hopkins, and Matthew McConaughey. Based on the events in 1839 aboard the slave ship La Amistad, the film was mostly well received and earned 4 nominations at the Academy Awards. 66-67. The critic from Salon magazine, however, thought the film lacked inspiration and Freeman's role was utterly cryptic. 68. In that same year, he was cast as psychologist Alex Cross in Kiss the Girls, a thriller based on James Patterson's 1995 novel of the same name. In a mixed review, Peter Stack of San Francisco Chronicle thought Freeman and co-star Ashley Judd gave strong performances despite the lengthy plot. 69. Freeman went on to star in Deep Impact, 1998, a science fiction disaster film in which he played President Tim Beck. 70. The story depicts humanity's attempt to destroy a 7-mile, 11 kilometers, wide comet set to collide with Earth and cause a mass extinction. The film was a box office hit, despite competition from Armageddon, another summer blockbuster of the year. 71. Continuing with the disaster genre, he then starred opposite Christian Slater in 1998's Hard Rain, centering on a heist and man-made treachery amidst a natural disaster in a small Indiana town. The film was unpopular with critics. Lawrence Van Gelder of the New York Times called the characters one-dimensional and the film routine. 72. Freeman returned to the screen in 2000 with the lead role of Charlie in the comedy Nurse Betty, featuring Renee Zellweger, Chris Rock, and Greg Kinnear. The film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival to mainly positive reviews. The critic from Variety magazine thought Freeman and Rock had wonderful chemistry. 73. Next, he appeared in Under Suspicion, 2000, a thriller remake of the 1981 French film Garde à Vue. The film had been carting round for 12 years before Freeman was able to produce it under Revelations Entertainment. 74. He co-starred with Gene Hackman. Working with Gene was wonderful. I didn't find it too hard working with an icon I so respected, Freeman said. 74. Upon release, Under Suspicion was met with lukewarm reception. 75. CNN's Paul Tatara praised the actors but thought the film was too tawdry to be completely entertaining, and too static to generate much excitement. 76. Freeman at the 2005 Cannes Film Festival. In 2001, Freeman reprised his role of Alex Cross in Along Came a Spider, a sequel to 1997's Kiss the Girls. The film received mixed to negative reviews. 77. Susan Olazacina of USA Today observed that Freeman strides with noble authority but thought the overall film was unmemorable. 78. In 2002, Freeman was cast opposite Ben Affleck in the spy thriller The Sum of All Fears. It is based on Tom Clancy's 1991 novel of the same name, about a plot by an Austrian neo-Nazi to trigger a nuclear war between the United States and Russia, so that he can establish a fascist superstate in Europe. The Sum of All Fears received moderate reviews. 79. But was a commercial success, grossing $193.9 million worldwide. 80. Next, Freeman starred alongside Ashley Judd and Jim Caviezel in High Crimes, 2002, a legal thriller based on Joseph Finder's 1998 novel of the same name. The story follows lawyer Claire Judd, whose husband, Caviezel, is arrested and placed on trial for the murder of villagers while he was in the Marines. Although several critics were unimpressed with the story, they credited Freeman and Judd for their chemistry and performances. 81. 82. In 2003, Freeman appeared as God in the hit comedy Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey and Jennifer Aniston. 83. Next, he starred in the science fiction horror Dreamcatcher, adapted from Stephen King's 2001 novel of the same name. The film was a box office flop. 84. And garnered mostly negative reviews. Dreamcatcher has an approval rating of 28% on review aggregate site Rotten Tomatoes. 85. Also in 2003, Freeman starred in two other dramas that were not widely seen, Levity and Guilty by Association. 86. 87. His 2004 releases were comedy The Big Bounce and sports drama $1 Million Baby. 88. 89. In the latter, directed by Clint Eastwood, Freeman portrayed an elderly former boxer. The film won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Hilary Swank, and Best Supporting Actor, earning Freeman his first Academy Award. 10. Freeman was also nominated for a Golden Globe Award in the same category. 90. Roger Ebert complimented Freeman's flat and factual narration. 91. And Time Out magazine thought the cast fully inhabited their roles. 92. 2005 to 2013, documentaries and thriller films. Freeman in 2007. Freeman made 6 appearances in various films in 2005. In the drama An Unfinished Life, Freeman plays Mitch, a neighbor of a Wyoming rancher, Robert Redford. The film had a mixed response. The Guardian critic thought it was amiable but questioned the purpose of Freeman's sidekick role. 93 Freeman's authoritative voice led to his narration of two documentaries, Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds and the Academy Award-winning March of the Penguins. 23 He also appeared in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, the first installment in what would become the Dark Knight trilogy, as the fictional Lucius Fox. 94 After this, he co-starred with Jet Li in the action thriller Unleashed, playing Sam, a blind piano tuner who helps Li's character turn his life around. The film gained a mixed to positive reception. Peter Hartlaub of San Francisco Chronicle was confused with the genre and thought Freeman's character interrupted the narrative. 95 Freeman's next role was in the thriller Edison, which bombed at the box office. 96 In his last release of 2005, he provided the voice of Neil Armstrong in the documentary Magnificent Desolation, Walking on the Moon 3D. 97. Freeman starred in 2006's The Contract, as assassin Frank Carden opposite John Cusack. The film was released direct-to-video, which critic John Cornelius suggests was unsurprising, considering the generic formula of the thriller. 98 Freeman next appeared in Lucky Number 11, 2006, a crime thriller directed by Paul McGuigan. Starring a principal cast of Josh Hartnett, Bruce Willis, Lucy Liu, Stanley Tucci, and Ben Kingsley, the film garnered mixed reception. 99 David Madden of BBC wrote, Kingsley and Freeman shine individually, but their inevitable, climactic clash of heads lacks force. Like its leading man Hartnett, this movie presents a charming facade with nothing much underneath. 100. Next, Freeman portrayed himself in the low-budget comedy 10 Items or Less opposite Paz Vega. 101 2 weeks after its theatrical release, 10 Items or Less was made available for download from Clickstar, a film distribution company that Freeman co-founded that year. 102. In 2007, Freeman reprised his role as God in Evan Almighty, a sequel to 2003's Bruce Almighty, with Steve Carell. Evan Almighty was a box office failure 103 and negatively received 104. The Guardian critic wrote, a cast full of people who have been frequently funny elsewhere flounder in this deluge of sentimentality and CGI. Avoid like the 10 plagues. 105. The drama Feast of Love was Freeman's second release of 2007. It is based on the 2000 novel The Feast of Love by Charles Baxter, about a group of friends living in suburban Oregon who come into contact with a free spirit who changes their outlook on life. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian sarcastically remarked that it was great to see Freeman in a challenging role. 106 Freeman had a supporting part in Gone Baby Gone, 2007, a mystery thriller that was also Ben Affleck's directorial debut. Adapted from the 1998 novel of the same name by Dennis Lehane, Freeman plays Captain Jack Doyle of the Boston Police Department. The story and cast performances were positively received. Time Out magazine called it flawed but impressive. 107 Afterward, he starred in Rob Reiner's 2007 comedy The Bucket List opposite Jack Nicholson. 108 The plot follows two terminally ill men on a road trip with a list of things to do before they die. The film grossed $175 million worldwide. 109. Freeman was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Nelson Mandela, pictured, in the film Invictus, 2009. In 2008, Freeman was cast in the action thriller Wanted, a loose adaptation of the comic book miniseries by Mark Miller and J.G. Jones. The plot revolves around Wesley Gibson, James McAvoy, a frustrated account manager who discovers that he is the son of a professional assassin and decides to join the fraternity, a secret society of which Sloan, Freeman, is the leader. Principal photography took place in Chicago. Co-star rapper Common remarked on the set atmosphere, Freeman is a cool guy. He'd be walking around joking and singing and just dancing. You know, artists are free and I just felt the freedom in him. 110. The film received generally favorable reviews. Peter Howell of Toronto Star thought it was original and one of Freeman's bolder performances to date. 111 Freeman narrated The Love Guru, 2008, 112 before appearing in The Dark Knight, 2008, the second installment of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, in which he reprised his role as Lucius Fox. 113 Freeman returned to Broadway in 2008 after an 18-year absence to co-star with Frances McDormand and Peter Gallagher in Clifford Odets' play, The Country Girl, directed by Mike Nichols. 114. Freeman continued to accept roles in a diverse range of genres. In 2009, Freeman starred opposite Antonio Banderas in the heist movie Thick as Thieves. 115 Next, he collaborated with Christopher Walken and William H. Macy for the comedy The Maiden Heist. For some time, Freeman expressed a desire to do a film based on Nelson Mandela. Initially, he wanted to adapt Mandela's autobiography Long Walk to Freedom into a screenplay, but plans were never finalized. 116 Instead, he purchased the film rights to John Carlin's book, Playing the Enemy, Nelson Mandela and the Game That Made a Nation. 117 The book was adapted into a film which Clint Eastwood directed, Invictus, starring Freeman as Mandela and Matt Damon as rugby team captain Francois Pienaar. 118 The biographical drama received positive reviews for Freeman's performance. Roger Ebert wrote, "Freeman does a splendid job of evoking the man Nelson Mandela. He shows him as genial, confident, calming, over what was clearly a core of tempered steel." 119. Freeman received Best Actor nominations at the Academy Awards and Golden Globes, as well as a nomination for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. 120 121 122 The same year he provided the narration for Janet Linghart's Anne and Emmett, a play featuring an imaginary conversation between Emmett Till and Anne Frank, both killed as young teenagers because of racial persecution. 123. Freeman in 2009. Freeman's sole film release of 2010 was Red with co-stars Bruce Willis, Helen Mirren, and John Malkovich. 124 Red is loosely adapted from the comic book series Red, created by Warren Ellis and Cully Hamner and published by the DC Comics imprint Homage. Freeman plays CIA mentor Joe, who helps retired fellow agent Frank Willis to uncover some assassins. The film was a critical and commercial success. 125 Writing for Melbourne's The Age, Jim Skembry praised Freeman and the cast who bring an infectious comic energy to their roles. 126. Besides film, Freeman worked on other projects. In January 2010, he replaced Walter Cronkite as the voice-over introduction to the CBS Evening News presented by Katie Couric. 127 CBS gave the need for consistency in introductions for regular news broadcasts and special reports as the basis for the change. 127 Deborah Myers, head of Science Channel, approached Freeman to be the presenter of Through the Wormhole, 2010-17. She had heard that he was really interested in space and the universe, and the pair agreed to develop the series together. 128. In 2011, Freeman narrated the fantasy Conan the Barbarian and appeared in the family drama Dolphin Tale, as prosthetic specialist Dr. McCarthy. 129 Returning to theater in 2011, Freeman was featured with John Lithgow in the Broadway debut of Dustin Lance Black's play, 8, a staged reenactment of Perry v. Brown, the federal trial that overturned California's Proposition 8 ban on same-sex marriage. Freeman played attorney David Boyce. 130 The production was held at the Eugene O'Neill Theater in New York City to raise money for the American Foundation for Equal Rights. 131 132 Freeman had a lead role in the 2012 drama The Magic of Belle Isle, as an alcoholic novelist trying to write again. The film fared poorly with critics, gaining only a 29% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. 133. Lastly, in 2012, Freeman reprised his role as Lucius Fox for the third time in The Dark Knight Rises. 134. A number of box office hits were released in 2013. Freeman appeared in the action thriller Olympus Has Fallen, the first installment in what would become the Has Fallen film series. 135. He portrays Speaker of the House Alan Trumbull. The San Francisco Chronicle critic gave Olympus Has Fallen 3 out of 4 stars and opined that Freeman gave an amicable supporting performance. 136. He then starred in the science fiction drama Oblivion, with co-star Tom Cruise, as veteran soldier Malcolm Beach. 137. And appeared in the thriller Now You See Me, as an ex-magician. 138. Lastly, he played a retiree in Las Vegas, with co-stars Michael Douglas, Robert De Niro, Kevin Kline, and Mary Steenburgen. 139. Filmed in Las Vegas and Atlanta. 140. Las Vegas was praised for its cast's chemistry, and one critic thought Freeman brought the most amusement. 141. 2014, present, continued success. Freeman at the Deauville Film Festival in 2018. In 2014, Freeman voiced the character Vitruvius in the Lego Movie, a commercially successful 3D animation. 142. He starred in Transcendence, a science fiction thriller directed by Wally Pfister in his directorial debut, in which Freeman plays scientist Joseph Taggart. Critic reviews of the film were generally mixed, according to Metacritic. 143. Next, he co-starred in the action Lucy, 2014, about a woman, Scarlett Johansson, who gains psychokinetic abilities when a nootropic drug is absorbed into her bloodstream. Freeman plays Professor Samuel Norman, who helps her research the condition. Producer Virginie Silla wanted Freeman for the part because of his experience in portraying a character of wisdom. 144. He was the perfect actor, she said. 144. Upon the release of Lucy, critical reception ranged from mixed to positive. 145. In the same year, Freeman appeared in Dolphin Tale 2, the sequel to 2011's Dolphin Tale. 146. And 5 Flights Up, a comedy drama. 147. At the end of 2014, Freeman appeared as himself, among other celebrities, in the documentary Lennon or McCartney. 148. Kazuaki Kiriya's action thriller Last Nights was Freeman's first film of 2015, starring opposite Clive Owen. The plot centers on a band of warriors who seek to avenge the loss of their master at the hands of a corrupt minister. Reviews were largely underwhelming. 149. Sarah Stewart of New York Post called it bloody bad, adding, "Once proud box office names are its first casualties." 150. Freeman next joined the cast of Ted 2, a comedy sequel to Ted, directed by Seth MacFarlane. The story follows the talking teddy bear Ted as he fights for civil rights in order to be recognized as a person. Freeman portrays Patrick Meighan, a highly respected civil rights attorney. 151. A television series, Madam Secretary, also occupied Freeman's time. He played Chief Justice Frawley of the United States Supreme Court in a recurring role in the series. He and his producing partner Laurie McCreary were executive producers. 152. Freeman directed the first episode. McCreary remarked of his directing style, "What's riveting is that he can achieve a complete tonal change in performance with the least amount of direction. Everybody behaves better when Morgan is there, but he's very fun." 153. At the end of 2015, Freeman played a U.S. Senator in the thriller Momentum. 154. Reprising his role as Alan Trumbull, Freeman appeared in London Has Fallen, the 2016 sequel to Olympus Has Fallen. The film follows a plot to assassinate the world leaders of the G7 as they attend the British Prime Minister's funeral in London, as well as Secret Service agent Mike Banning's efforts to protect U.S. President Benjamin Asher, Aaron Eckhart, from being killed. The film was a commercial success. 155. However, writing for the AV Club, Ignatiy Vishnevetsky criticized the cheap filmmaking, saying, "The movie periodically cuts to overqualified supporting actors including Freeman, Melissa Leo, and Robert Forster. As it turns out, it's possible to write something that will sound like garbage even when spoken in Freeman's sonorous voice." 156 Next, Freeman reprised his role as Thaddeus Bradley, starring in Now You See Me 2, 2016, 157 The sequel to Now You See Me, the sequel grossing a successful $334.9 million worldwide. 158 Finally, he had a leading role in the historical drama Ben-Hur, the fifth film adaptation of the 1880 novel Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ by Lew Wallace. Freeman expressed interest in playing Sheikh Ilderim, a wealthy Nubian sheikh, stating, "This character has quite a bit of power in the story. And I like playing power. It's something about my own personal ego." 159. Ben-Hur turned out to be one of 2016's biggest box office bombs. 161. Freeman at a private screening in the Pentagon in 2023. In 2017, Freeman appeared in two comedies, Going in Style and Just Getting Started. The first one is a remake of the 1979 film with the same name, co-starring Michael Caine and Alan Arkin. In it they play bank robbers after their pensions are cancelled. 162 It opened to a mixed response. 163 The Telegraph's Robbie Collin thought the trio of actors looked tired before the end of it. 164 Just Getting Started, in which Freeman starred with Tommy Lee Jones and Rene Russo, was critically panned by reviewers. 165 The plot follows an ex-FBI agent, Jones, who must put aside his personal feud with a former mob lawyer, Freeman, at a retirement home when the mafia comes to kill the pair. Freeman also hosted the National Geographic The Story of God with Morgan Freeman and The Story of Us with Morgan Freeman, in 2016 and 2017, respectively. 166. In 2018, Freeman narrated Alpha, a historical drama set in the last ice age. He then starred in Disney's The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, a retelling of E.T.A. Hoffmann's short story The Nutcracker and the Mouse King and Marius Petipas and Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky's ballet The Nutcracker. 167 Finally he had an uncredited role as Jerome in the biographical drama Brian Banks, a high school football player who was falsely accused of rape and upon his release attempted to fulfill his dream of making the NFL. 168 In 2019, Freeman starred opposite John Travolta in The Poison Rose, an adaptation of the novel by Richard Salvatore. 169 In Angel Has Fallen, Freeman reprised his role as Alan Trumbull, the third installment in the Has Fallen film series, following Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen. Although critical reception was mixed, 170 the film was a box office success, earning $147.5 million worldwide. 171. Freeman next appeared alongside an ensemble cast in George Gallo's crime comedy The Comeback Trail, 2020, and in Coming to America, 2021, a sequel to the 1988 film. 172 On November 20, 2022, Freeman performed with Ghanem Al-Mufti at the opening ceremony of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. 173 174 In 2021 he took a guest starring role acting opposite Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin in the Netflix comedy The Kominsky Method, for which he was nominated for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. 175 Since 2023 he has portrayed a United States Secretary of State in the Taylor Sheridan-created Paramount Plus spy thriller series Lioness starring Nicole Kidman and Zoe Saldana. 176 Freeman stated he joined the show due to Sheridan telling TV Insider, "I'm so enamored of him and his work. He's so prolific, and it's always good." 177. Freeman is set to return to the heist franchise acting in Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which is set to release November 2025. 178. Other ventures. Environmental activism. In 2004, Freeman helped form the Grenada Relief Fund to aid people affected by Hurricane Ivan on the island of Grenada. The fund has since become Planet Now, an organization that seeks to provide preparedness resources for people living in areas affected by hurricanes and severe storms. 179. In 2014, he narrated a clip titled "What's Possible," which had its debut at the United Nations Climate Summit. 180. Freeman has donated to the Mississippi Horse Park in Starkville, Mississippi, part of Mississippi State University, and Freeman has several horses that he takes there. 181. After learning about the decline of honeybees, Freeman decided to turn his 124-acre ranch into a bee sanctuary in July 2014, beginning with 26 beehives. 182. Freeman is a supporter of Oceania and ocean conservation. 183. Political activism. In 2005, Freeman criticized the celebration of Black History Month, saying, "I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history." 184. He opined that the only way to end racism is to stop talking about it, and he noted that there is no White History Month. 184. In an interview with 60 Minutes' Mike Wallace, Freeman said, "I am going to stop calling you a white man and I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man." 184. 185. Freeman supported the defeated proposal to change the Mississippi state flag, which incorporated the Confederate battle flag at the time. 186. 187. In an interview on CNN's Piers Morgan Tonight, Freeman drew controversy when he accused the Tea Party movement of racism. 188. 189. 190. Regarding the 2015 Baltimore protests, Freeman said he was absolutely supportive of the protesters. That unrest in Baltimore has nothing to do with terrorism at all, except the terrorism we suffer from the police. Because of the technology, everybody has a smartphone now. In reaction to the death of Freddie Gray, we can see what the police are doing. We can show the world, look, this is what happened in that situation. So why are so many people dying in police custody? And why are they all black? And why are all the police killing them white? What is that? The police have always said, "I feared for my safety." Well, now we know. Okay. You feared for your safety while a guy was running away from you, right? 191. During the 2008 presidential election, Freeman endorsed Barack Obama's presidential bid, although he said he would not join Obama's campaign. 192. He provided the voice of the narrator for Disney World's The Hall of Presidents when Obama was added to the exhibit. 193. 194. And when the Hall of Presidents reopened on July 4, 2009, at Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida. 194. On day 4 of the 2016 Democratic National Convention, Freeman provided the voiceover for the video introduction of Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. 195. 196. On September 19, 2017, Freeman appeared in a video by the Committee to Investigate Russia Group 197. 198. In which he declared, "We United States are at war," and accusing Russia of launching cyber attacks and spreading false information. 199. 200. Freeman also endorsed his friend Bill Luckett, who unsuccessfully ran for governor of Mississippi in 2011. 201. In June 2021, he and Linda Kina, a professor at the University of Mississippi, donated $1 million to the university, establishing the Center for Evidence-Based Policing and Reform. 202. Business ventures. In 1997, Freeman and business partner Lori McCreary founded Revelations Entertainment, a film production company. They also founded ClickStar in 2006, a film download company, with investment from Intel Corporation. 203. ClickStar ceased operations in 2008. 204 Freeman owns and operates Ground Zero, a blues club in Clarksdale, Mississippi. He is the former co-owner of Matadai, a fine dining restaurant in the same city. 205. Personal life. Freeman with daughter Morgana at the 62nd Academy Awards in 1990. Marriage and family. Freeman was married to Jeanette Adair Bradshaw from October 22,